right, folks, the
Good
Duke
deal.
Machado Lexit movement here with the Strike Force, and tonight we are visiting a very special guest, State Representative, first term in office, newly elected, Jacey Jetton. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good to be on here with you, Duke.
Well, so like I was mentioning, thank you for joining us tonight. We witnessed in this last election so many different things that in my mind, and I know your mind and probably most of our listeners' minds, was that a lot of wrong in this last election. A lot of bad things happened, um, from a fraud to a process to you name it. And when President Trump transferred power to Joe Biden, I think like everyone else, we're all thinking, what's the next election going to be like? And you obviously were thinking the same thing and decided, let me make an impact on what next election is going to be. Talk about the bill that you're presenting on election integrity.
Absolutely. So just to give some background, I was the county Republican Party chair for Fort Bend County, and that's where a lot of my experience and knowledge about elections came from. And so as the chair, your responsibility is to hold a primary election, and at that point, it's the integrity of that election and the trust that people have in that election is of the utmost importance because they're selecting the nominee that's going to go on to the general election. And so, with that same thing in mind, we do see a breakdown in trust for our elections. And because of that, we've put together a number of bills. This first one that we've gotten filed so far has to do with just who's allowed into the polling locations and into the mail-in ballot counting locations. There were issues within Fort Bend County, which is where this started, and I have no doubt this is happening around the state. But when people enter into the polling locations, you should only be a poll worker that's administering the election or a voter. Or if the elections administrator decides that they need to have additional security or there's staff coming in to check the polling equipment, but it should be very limited people that have access to those areas. And so we're just outlining that in the state statute so that it's enforceable. And we're going to have a
So
number of
so
other
you
bills.
don't have someone, yeah, so you don't have someone inside with a stick just kind of like pounding their hand, like, make
Right.
sure, Did you say
Voter
Republican? You meant
intimidation.
Yeah, you meant Democrat, didn't you?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's so important to ensure that there's not intimidation going on in the polling locations, and by the election judges and clerks having the authority to remove people that shouldn't be there. It is very important to ensuring that voters feel safe coming in and can vote their conscience in the way that they want to. And so.
So are you getting any resistance to the bill, or are you getting any pushback from Democrats?
No, not necessarily. There's going to be a number of election bills that come through. We're pretty early into the or into the session so far. We just got through selecting our speaker last week. We put together the House rules. We're submitting our committee request this week. My request is to be on the elections committee because I think there's
Hmm.
important bills that need to come through there, and I want to have a say in that. And we'll know hopefully in the next week or two which committees we end up on. That's when a lot of the discussion is going to happen. We got to make sure that our bills make it to the committee and are heard, have a fair shake there, and then get it passed to make it to the House floor, and then get it through the Senate side as well. And so there's a lengthy process to it, but we're prepared to go through it.
I'm really glad to know that Texas was not a Dominion system state. um, but with what's known about Dominion, there's bound to be. I mean, that's just, I'm sure, one of many companies that offer that service. Unfortunately, what do we have, or what do we do to make sure that, I know when I go vote, I roll the little wheel, I click the buttons, and I hit submit.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that that's counted properly. But I mean,
Yeah.
how do we restore confidence in our system?
Yeah, so the polling equipment is going to be another big discussion this session. I know in Fort Bend County, we went from the dial to a system, a touch screen that actually prints out a paper ballot that you're able to review and make sure that your votes are accurately counted or portrayed on there. And then you run it through another machine that tallies those votes. And, having the multi-layers, having a paper trail are both important. Having the polling booths disconnected, standalone systems to where you can't go in and compromise all the polling booths. You're going to have to break into one, go through a lot of steps to be able to manipulate it. We want all the booths to be isolated and then also disconnected from the internet. None of those should be connected to the
Mhm.
internet. I know that when you're registering to vote, or not registering, but when you're checking in to vote, those systems are connected, especially in counties like Fort Bend County, where you can vote at any polling location. That ensures you're not jumping around to different polling locations and voting. But other than that, the polling system should not be connected to the internet. We should have clean, uh, clean databases that are just, they go from straight from the polling booths to the tabulation machines and accurately count it. That's it. And so I think,
I want to ask you.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Well,
I know of another state rep that has there's another House rep that has a bill that's going to require that all our voting machines be made of all parts made in the United States. I think that goes a long way. And then also, we're going to put together a bill that requires them all to be disconnected from the internet. And so I think those two help to safeguard our
mm,
polling booths.
well, I see your helmet behind you there. Uh, Tell our audience a little bit about your military background, and kind of what your thoughts are on some of the recent changes to military policy that Joe Biden has just implemented.
Yeah, so I was in the Texas Army National Guard. I was attached to a mechanized infantry unit, and so I spent most of my time in the turret of a Humvee shooting the MT-40 Bravo and the 50 caliber machine gun and Maldeus, and enjoyed every minute of it. I never got deployed, but was always ready. Um, but it was disappointing what happened in DC when they summoned them all to the parking garage. And there's, our military goes through a lot. They go through a lot of checks. They sworn an oath. They go everywhere that they're told to go and do everything they're told to do. And have their integrity questioned by the president right off the bat was not a good way to start off.
Did they screen them on their how they voted? I don't know what exactly was the determining factor of whether they were qualified to do their duty. That was real interesting. Power move, I think, by the Biden's administration.
Yes, it was frustrating and
Um,
insulting for sure.
so, in your first term, how was your race? Was it highly contested? Did you have a fierce opponent and a Democrat, a challenger?
We did. We had a robust primary election and runoff election. Moving into the general election, it was a hard fought, multi-million dollar race on both sides, and just much more than we've ever seen in Texas. Just the money pouring in from all over the country. I had actors and actresses giving money to my opponent. Just a big attempt to take this election from us. Just a little bit of background on the district I'm running in. This is a district that in 2014 we won by 40 points. In 2016 we won by 15 points. In 2018 we won by 4 points. And
Mm.
so from 40 to 16 to 4, and we managed to hold it at 4% again this time, despite all the money that came in and all the efforts to flip it. And so it was a hard fought election, but we managed to keep it. And my goal is to make sure that we are doing our jobs well. We gotta represent well here at the state legislature. We're gonna put together good bills. We're gonna fight to get it passed, and we're gonna do as much as we can in the community to make sure that we're serving them and helping to meet their needs in the district.
from what I know about Fort Bend County, and I'll do a name drop here with Mike and Tina Gibson.
Yeah,
They, I mean, I've seen them work for years to build what I see to be one of the more diverse Republican parties in the state. So your
right.
district is you've got a large Asian population and Latino population. Is it? I want to go back to the voter election and integrity. What are your thoughts on voter ID? You know, a new voter, you know, require a photo ID to vote in Texas. Is that possible? Is it possible to ask for that, or is it
Yeah,
racist? Is it racist to ask for that?
Fort Bend County is the most diverse county in the country. It almost has a even split among the different ethnicities, and I think believe the Republican Party has done a good job of engaging into the different communities, and Mike and Tina Gibson have done a great job. Mike introduced me into the party, to Fort Bend County Republican Party years ago, and became a precinct chair under him, and followed him as county chair,
Mm.
and so. But as far as voter IDs go, absolutely, it's necessary. I think it's if you're driving on our streets, if you're participating, if you're buying alcohol, if you're doing a lot of things in our community, you have a license, and if you don't, you have enough opportunity to get a photo ID. And so I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be able to get one to vote. And one of the things we're looking at is putting together a bill that's going to require a photo ID. And if you don't have a photo ID, you're allowed to still use the reasonable impediment clause, which allows you to vote with other documentation. But those votes will be casted as provisional votes that'll get verified at a later, if there's contested. But otherwise, you need to have a photo ID to vote.
I think the Democrats always will try to say that it's racist because it's an attack on blacks and Hispanics, people who are in low income environments and things like that. Like they can't get out of their house, or they can't get a ride, or there's no one that can take them to get a driver's license or an ID. And but I would say that to that I always say, if they won $1 million in a lotto and they needed an ID to prove who they were, I bet you in 5 minutes they'd have a ride to the state office. I promise you. So it's just
Yeah,
a matter of the value of our vote, and the sacrifices that have been made for a U.S. citizen to make a vote is, when I think of illegal immigrants voting on policies that affect U.S. citizens, that's the most absurd thing that I've heard of, and to have Democrats continue to support that option, that we allow that. I don't know. I know they want those votes. We can't let them have those votes. Those people don't need to be voting, and it's not racist to require photo ID.
right.
That's what
And
I think.
I agree, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell this to any group. If someone wants to register to vote, or if someone wants a photo ID so that they can vote, we'll help them. There's plenty of people that are willing to help. Anybody that wants to go get their photo ID so that they can vote,
Mhm,
we're more than willing to do it. And
mm.
so there should be no obstacles in the way. We're willing to do it. Our office will help with that, and I know there's plenty of others that would help facilitate that.
Yeah,
So.
I agree, and I believe the amount of people that legitimately need help is such a small, small, small percentage that it can be taken care of by local activism.
Right. That's
Um,
right.
so I want to switch to something. We're Lexit. So Lexit is Latinos exiting the Democrat Party. If you were speaking with a group of people who had just left the Democrat Party, Latinos, what advice would you give them? What suggestions would you make if they're passionate about America or Texas?
Yeah, one of the main things is participating in elections. Our Republican primaries are vital to ensuring that we have the best candidates that move on to the general election. Participate in the Republican primaries. Get to know your Republican elected officials. We want to invite you into the party. We want you to feel welcome. We want you to have a seat at the table. If there are issues that are important to you, we want to hear about them and know about them and make sure that we're addressing them in the best way we can. And so, the main thing is just know that you're welcome into this party, and we want to work with you and ensure that we're meeting the needs of your family.
So what I see, yeah, so what I see is there's a lot of room in the Hispanic community, the Latino community, eligible voters versus registered voters. That's one segment, and then the percentage of voter turnout is so low. We've got a lot of room to grow in the Hispanic community. How do we get these? How do we get the message, or what is the message to those folks? How do we get them engaged? What's your message?
That's right. There's a large my message is I want to work with people like you and different people in the community to ensure that we're communicating and providing enough information to the potential voters so that they'll start engaging. There's whether you're a small business owner or working for another company, whatever if you have children, there are policies that are crucial and impact your life that everywhere from your county constable, county justice of the peace up to president have an impact. But there's these local races, even the state representative races that are just we have a profound impact on your life, and you should be engaged in what we're doing, and we want you to be engaged in what we're doing, because that's the only way we're going to know what's important to you is if you vote and you communicate with us. And so, we want to make sure that we're meeting those expectations and desires of the community. And, their engagement is crucial. And I want to work with everyone that's wants to engage those communities and ensure they're coming out to vote.
There's a there's an idea right now that's going around. I just want to get your thoughts on, people are upset with how the elections went. They're talking third party. People are talking a Patriot Party or America Party or Unity Party. I've heard all these things about different parties. What's your message to Republican voters right now on that?
My message is to stick with the Republican Party. The trouble with going to other party or creating third party is you're typically pulling from one party or the other, which dilutes the vote and gives it to if you're pulling more from Republican Party, you're giving elections to the Democrats. The party system is made in such a way that everybody has a say. It's confusing to start off with. As chairman, I went around and gave a lot of these spills on how important it is to be a part of precinct conventions and conventions all the way up to the state convention and national convention, because that's where we decide what the party stands for. That's where we elect our party leadership and decide what direction our party is going in. And we've always had this struggle of a very small amount of people participating in the party politics of things,
Mhm.
and it doesn't always represent the masses. And the only way that changes is if more people get engaged in it.
Yeah.
And so,
It's a two-way thing. You can't just wait for the party to come to you. You got to go to the party. You got to get involved and volunteer your time,
that's
effort.
exactly right, because we can't read your mind. We need your voices there so that we're going towards and being the party that you want us to be,
Yeah.
and we only know that if you participate.
Well, I'm going to give you a final word here, a message that you want to end with, or you want to talk a little recap on what you're all about with election integrity. Maybe before we get that, you could tell us what are the Democrats trying to do to us here in Texas, or do you know any inside scoop on what kind of radical changes they're trying to make?
Yeah, I don't know that I can speak a whole lot to what the Democrats are doing right now. I do know that they have a slew of election bills. They kind of go the opposite direction of what we're intending. I'm you know we're the reason I'm so passionate and focused on the election integrity stuff is, I am of the firm belief that we lose faith in our elections, that we've lost the republic.
Hmm.
And we should not be at a place where we're losing faith and um, losing trust in our state and federal governments and the elections that elect our representatives to them. We need to we need to move forward together, united and prepared to move our country and state in the right direction that provides the best opportunities to achieve the American dream, to raise our families in safe communities, so our children have good education, so that we're able to start businesses and get good jobs. Those are still the American dream. It's still important to preserve those and do everything we can to protect those. And it starts with elections, and that's where we're going to focus on. And like I said, we'll have a number of bills that focus on that. And if I get my request, I'll be on the elections committee, and I'll do everything I can on there to make sure that we're passing
Oh,
through
we'd like to see you there
good
for
bills.
sure. Yeah,
So
we'd love to see you there for sure, and follow up on you. And now that I know you're in Mike and Tina's region, the Lexit Strike Force, we really need to be involved and help you out whenever you need some help. So um, I
absolutely, we
appreciate
appreciate
you.
that.
I appreciate you joining us and talking about this. To our listeners, to our members of our strike force, we thank you for tuning in and watching and learning and gaining some insight from someone who's on the inside. And that's what we continue to bring you truth and facts. There's no editing. Well, I might edit my cough out earlier. But aside from that, thank you for tuning in. Duke Machado, Lexit Strike Force, Lexit Live, and go to our website, lexitmovement.org, and check us out. And you can sign up for the Strike Force right there. Representative Jetton, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us,
I
sir.
appreciate the opportunity. Thank
All
y'all.
right. Take care. Bye bye.
You too.